Hello and welcome one and all, and welcome back to another episode of Kamen Rider Revice, or another episode where we look at an episode of Kamen Rider Revice. Sorry. Still kind of feeling a little sick with the sinus issue, but I feel a bit better, so I don't have an excuse to skip an episode, although this is coming out later than I would have liked it to. But anyway, we are here with another Revice. I wonder, will we get another writer for Revice? That would honestly be pretty cool if we ever got another writer for Kamen Rider Revi and Kamen Rider Revice. That would honestly be a pretty cool idea. Sort of like an opposite of what they did with another double. But that is that is another talk for another day. So let's actually talk about the episode. It just came to me randomly, and I had to insert that in here for some reason. So, let's talk about the episode. Alright, so obviously this follows up after last week's episode, in which we get the obvious reveal of who has the Kong VStamp, and it's obviously Ayaka. She had the Kong VStamp the entire time, set up her own kidnapping as kind of a test for her mother, to see if her mother would, actually give two shits about her, if she got kidnapped in a sense. And, this is part of the dead man's plan to raise Ayaka as a sacrifice. And we find out that Julio and, I'm blanking on names again. I'm still not used to them yet. Give me a minute. We find out that Julio and, Otalisa, I'm going to take forever to actually learn how to pronounce that correctly, are actually fellow sacrifices. They need 6 sacrifices, and they are 2, so they just need 4 more sacrifices. But it's a bit hard because, most humans aren't worthy enough to become a sacrifice, because they need to be able to form a demon, which is what the VStamps are for, and then from that demon make an advanced contract where they merge with the demon in order to become a full sacrifice for Gift-sama. But it's interesting because Julio and Otalisa have the ability to go to a humanoid form, which, spoilers for Ayaka, she does not seem to have that when she's gone full demon, which I'll bring that up later. But the overall plot, it starts off with Daiji being a bit mad at Ikki for not, going to the siblings, actually, start off with the Deadman, for not signing the Phoenix contract, and, he's getting aggravated and tells Ikki, you know what, just shove it, find a Deadman by yourself, which honestly seems easy, because in fact they keep reporting where the Deadmen are, so it's not that hard to find out where Deadmen are. It's just hard to get there for Ikki, because, he doesn't have a car or anything, or an actual bike, outside of his granny bike. So he says, screw it, do whatever you want, and leaves. Ikki does whatever he wants and goes to a concert that Ayaka's little sister, who is apparently an idol, part of an idol group, is a part of. She's also apparently the center, which, for those of you who don't know, the center is basically the main idol of an idol group. It's what kind of makes Love Live a bit different, because it's kind of a series where there is no true center, just centers for individual songs. And I just revealed I know what Love Live is. Okay, anyway, back to Kamen Rider. They're at the concert, and songs, I didn't really listen to it that much, but it was okay. I imagine it's probably going to be on the special soundtrack CD, because this is probably an original song they commissioned. Probably not going to be one of the more important insert songs. But anyway, Ayaka's mother's super into the concert, recording her younger daughter, and Ayaka walks up because she wasn't home because she didn't want to see her mother, and then she basically makes a freak out, and because her mother still continues to push her younger sister, or at least pays more attention to the younger sister, the idol sister, and just ignores her. She pulls out the Kong stamp, summons the Kong dead man yet again, and then her mother has while it is a bit rude for her to yell at her daughter that she's a monster, she's more referring to the demon that she summoned, she still has to protect her younger daughter, but it's still really rude to yell monster at your obviously going through mental breakdown daughter right now. This is the opening Aguilera needs to basically be the snake or the devil, almost literally, on Ayaka's shoulder, convincing her to form an advanced contract with the dead man, and then she merges with the Kong dead man to form not a monkey-looking demon form. I don't know how to describe this thing. It looks kind of weird, but it brings a question. So, when someone merges with the dead man, will they take a form similar to the dead man that got summoned, or more similar to just some kind of random thing? Like, this is referred to as the Phase 2 Kong Dead Man, but will the Kong Dead Man look vaguely gorilla-esque? Its Phase 2 really only has a kind of monkey-esque face and kind of monkey-esque fingers on its head, but everything else about it does not look monkey at all. Like, maybe the torso does, but that's about it. Yeah, complaining about weird monster designs later. So that's the game. So yeah, she uses her newfound power, kind of goes horror movie on us for a quick second, because she can kind of go invisible, and then she sings while she's invisible, and that's always creepy. Kidnaps her younger sister, who, well, yes, is the source of her trauma in a bit. Literally did nothing to hurt her. So the younger sister, who doesn't even get a speaking line this episode outside of the song, probably deserved a bit more grievance. I wouldn't be surprised if she whipped out the VStamp next week, if we already didn't have the episode preview. So, yeah, she kidnaps the younger sister, and then the next day, she's literally holding her over a ledge in the middle of town, the tallest building she could find, and is doing a classic hostage situation just to spite her mom, who Ikki brings to the hostage situation, who actually managed to talk her daughter down, because she admits, yeah, I've been a terrible mother. I didn't realize I was being a bad mom. And she accepts her, an honestly pretty touching moment. Again, the serious theme of family continues. But apparently the demon didn't like this, and she rampages. So Ikki obviously has to fight her after saving her falling sister with the pterodactyl, with the pterodactyl genome, or pterodactyl VStamp, which is the Phi's reference form, or Phi's tribute form, which turns Vice into a hover car, or say hover bike, which it just straight up flies. So is it not really a hover? Because hover only applies to go only just a little bit above the ground, not straight up fly. So it's not really a hover bike, it's just a flying bike. We actually don't see Vice transform into this, which honestly would have been pretty hilarious, and I imagine that we won't really see him transform into the vehicle for any of his I get turned into a vehicle forms, which we know of two. I won't say what the other one is, it's kind of funny, but we know of at least two that are going to appear throughout the series. The other one appearing this month, or next month according to the scans, because the scans came out for October. It's honestly pretty cool, because we see earlier that that Daiji asked George, how do we stop a Phase 2 dead man? And George, being a total nerd, because we see his office, and it's full of Kamen Rider memorabilia and stuff that almost blatantly screams, "Hey kids, our collectors now on sale!" With like various rider belts and action figures and shit. And George, being a total nerd because he designed the system, obviously says, "Oh, the way to stop a Phase 2 dead man is just to give him a good old rider kick." I'm just like, yeah, of course you would design this like this, you total nerd. You oddly ripped nerd, because we walk in on him working out. And he is jacked, my dude. Well, not like jacked, but like he's more muscular than the oversized lab coat would lead you to believe. Proving that nerds can be also jockish in a way, or at least have the physique of a jock. So, breaking stereotypes, that's good on you. So yeah, it's a pretty cool fight scene with obviously heavy CGI focus because, it's heavily involving the hover bike. So it eventually leads to Iggy giving the good rider kick to Ayaka and freeing her from her dead man. So I guess she's not a sacrifice anymore. They might have to elaborate on that eventually. But yeah, Ikki frees Ayaka. Her and her mother kind of reconcile. She's kind of unconscious now. I don't know if she'll wake up though. And she's also in Phoenix jail. I think this might be their rehab center, but it's obviously a jail cell. So yeah. Anyway, we get a happy ending with Ikki finally signing that Phoenix contract, and him and Daiji being happy about it. But there's also a bit of suspicion because earlier in the episode, when Ikki and Daiji were fighting, there was a photo that Ikki had of him and Daiji celebrating Daiji, I guess, being accepted into Phoenix. But when Vice was looking at the photo, Ikki disappears from the photograph, which are their memories being rewritten? That is not explained in this episode, and I hope it will be explained, because is it a side effect of using a Revice driver? We don't know, because it's all a mystery, but we'll hopefully find out soon, or it might be found out much later. But yeah, this episode did the good. It answered some of the questions and raised a ton more. What else could you want? So let me actually talk about how I feel about the episode in detail. Alright, so I really like this episode. Yeah, the twist about Ayaka being the Kong VStamp holder was kind of obvious, especially from the shoe reveal at the end of last week's episode. It wasn't even supposed to be a big mystery. I was kind of hoping he'll play it up as a big mystery and maybe have the younger sister be the one with the Kong VStamp. Maybe she just felt too much pressure from the mother or something. But that's just wishful thinking for them to do a little bit more than the basics. But they did the basic, and it was actually done pretty well. You honestly feel for Ayaka in this episode because, we saw her mother just completely ignore her kidnapping last week, and we see her mother kind of brush off the fact her daughter was kidnapped. It's like she was like, "Oh, you were kidnapped? I mean, that's fine. I mean, you're fine now, so it's not like it was that big a deal." It's probably that kind of reason. She never says it out loud, but it's probably that kind of reason. It's like, "Oh, well, she's safe now, and that's the past, so let me focus on what's happening now, which is my daughter being idle." Yeah. Ayaka's mom, I don't even remember her name, obviously has favoritism towards the younger sister, if only for the idol stuff. It comes off a little bit like those stereotypical stage parents, albeit a somewhat healthier version of one, who just seems to be really jazzed that their daughter's doing a lot of super important shit, and it's just there to support them, but completely ignores the other more normal sibling as a result of it, which is Ayaka. And I kind of like that the Dead Men play on this. They specifically say to Ayaka, at least Argula tells her specifically, that she can give up on her mother and her sister and become Gifu-sama's child, because she wants a more loving parent. And apparently Gifu would be that, despite the fact she's a sacrifice to resummon him, or reawaken him. Speaking of, so I was already getting vibes that these guys were like the horoscopes from Forza, but this just confirms they're exactly like the horoscopes from Forza, because they need at least 6, well, I guess in this case at least 4 more people to form a contact with a demon, enter phase 2, and I guess advance from there to be similar to Julio and Osielta. I'm going to keep forgetting how to pronounce his name, aren't I? Until I actually hear it in the show. Yeah, so that's honestly pretty cool. Getting a place on the fact that they're demons and they're tempting people. They're tempters, trying to convince people to go with their darker emotions and fall to the dark side and blah blah blah. Sith stuff. But it's honestly pretty cool, especially the way they portray it. like literally being a devil on your shoulder whispering in your ear to give into your more darker temptations. Or at least in this case. They also explain why they had to go after specific people. Because they mention that most people, they'll just can only form a Gift Jr., which are the mooks for the season. So just being able to form a dead man is pretty rare in and of itself. So it's not like they can literally just go into town, just stab, yank a bunch of people, and, get them to summon their dead men, and then try to do that. They have to find a specific target because, they need someone who can actually form a dead man with their own spirit and then form a contract to Phase 2. Again, it's very much like the horoscopes, or more specifically like a weird combination of the Yummy from O's, the horoscopes, and a little bit of the operation of the Phantoms from Wizard. Although in this case they don't have to sacrifice the person, although the person will eventually be sacrificed to reawaken Gift Fasama. Because Ayaka is still in her coma and we don't see her wake up, it makes me wonder if she's still a sacrifice, and if towards series end they'll come sweep up her unconscious body to use as a sacrifice. Might be why they put her in jail, or they might have put her in jail because she kind of caused some incidents by becoming a demon. That's honestly pretty interesting. They don't seem that they needed her again because they didn't try to drag her back to their base after she became a Phase 2 dead man. So I'm assuming that just becoming a Phase 2 is enough, or Ayaka just didn't meet the right requirements for what they needed, and that's why they seemed to abandon her instead of dragging her back to their base. But, that's enough about talking about the villains, who honestly came off as really interesting in this episode. As for our heroes, I like Daiji a lot. Obviously, I liked them a lot last week's episode. But I think here we get to the heart of the matter about him and Ikki. It's honestly a pretty cool relationship that, they can have this kind of brotherly spat. Because, Daiji wants Ikki to take the whole situation a bit more seriously, but Ikki obviously wants to hold on to something that's very important to the family, because Sakura is still a school student, so she obviously can't stay at the bathhouse all the time. The father is always doing YouTube stuff apparently, or just online content stuff, and even Ikki mentions, I can barely keep this place running together without mom, because she's still in the hospital. It's kind of funny because I'm so used to other shows that the characters be in a hospital for maybe 1 or 2 days, and then by day 3 or the 3rd episode after they were in the hospital, they're already back and just doing whatever they were doing before they got hospitalized. But no, the mother's still in the hospital. It makes me wonder if she's going to be out of the picture for the first set of episodes, or if she's actually just going to come right back the next episode or something. I don't know. But yeah, she's still in the hospital, and she also has a pretty cool moment with individually with Ikki and then with Daiji. It's honestly really cool. And then, Ikki getting the pterodactyl VStamp. Speaking of, I like the Fi's tribute form. It looks like it does a good job playing tribute to Fi's in the form of the suit design. Still feels weird that it's the vehicle form. That we need a vehicle form at all feels kind of weird. But still, I imagine they're going to break this continuity if or when they need to do a giant rider driving your motorcycle thing, which often happens in the movies, because they're probably just going to leave it as base Vice or base Revice instead of having Revi go into the Vice form, which is a pterodactyl, which I find kind of surprising. In all honesty, that was surprising. Outside of our villains getting a lot more fleshing out and being a lot more interesting, and just stuff with Ikki and Daiji and that whole photograph thing, that's all the episode. That's it. I mean, there is one weird note, because they mentioned the eviction from last week's episode about the developers who wanted to come and tear down the bathhouse and renovate the whole area. And they mentioned the eviction notice, and then I just I'm just gonna talk to my higher ups and get them to I guess, move the construction back or something. I mean, it feels like a very convenient way to end that subplot, but I honestly don't imagine they want to do much with it, which is probably why they dropped it so quickly. Still feels weird that it's dropped so quickly, like literally one episode after, literally the same episode is introduced. Like the next episode after that, they drop it, and I'm just like, oh, come on, you guys could have gone somewhere with this. Like, maybe have Vicky have a bit of conflict because he has to worry about the eviction, but then a dead man attacks. I mean, yeah, it would have been cheap drama, but still. So, yeah. Again, really liked this episode. And I really like this episode, and I am honestly really loving Revice so far. It's very different from Saber in the fact that it actually explains things, and I'm happy, that our villains are more interesting than a plank of wood. And, one doesn't suddenly pull a face turn and become the biggest bad while also losing most of their calm, cool personality. Unless, that does happen later, but I hope it doesn't. So I don't know how to end this outside of just saying, episode good, and I'll see you all next time. If anyone actually watches this thing, they think I'll get a video of that self-deprecation joke. You were wrong, my friend. The link should be up. The cues, the annotation should be up now on screen. And I hope all of you guys have yourself a good day and or night whenever you watch this, or whenever I put this up. And until next time, everybody.